Everybody, welcome back on Lit Up with Annie. This is the sixth session of the General Prologue, and in this session, we are going to talk about the Parson, the Plowman, and the Miller. And please watch the video till the end. Very soon, we are going to be over with the entire original text of the General Prologue. And as I said, you're going to be very happy with yourself once you complete the entire text, and when you read it, you know what it means. So let's quickly begin. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please support this channel by subscribing to it. Thank you. Let's jump into the character of Parson. Just 1 second. Alright. A good man there was of religion, and was a poor person of a town, but rich he was of holy thought and work. He was also a learned man, a clerk. The parson we are talking about, and Chaucer says that he was a good man. Now he has really praised the parson in a good manner, no satire, nothing. A good man there was of religion, and was a poor parson of the town. But yes, he was poor, but he was very, very rich in his thought, in his work. He was very good with it. He was also a learned man, a clerk. He was also a scholar. That Christ's gospel truly would preach, his parishioners devoutly would he teach. Benign he was, and wonder diligent, and in adversity full patient. So he was very true to whatever he would teach. So what he would teach was Christ's gospels. To his parishioners, he would very devoutly teach. And he was very benign. What does benign mean? Very kind, very gentle, and diligent. That shows care towards his work, his duties. And in adversity, full patient. If there was any kind of adversity, any kind of problem, anything, he was very patient with everything. And such he was, ye pressed often sights, full loath were him to curson for his tithes, but rather would he even given out of doubt unto his poor parishioners about. So he was such a man, like we just talked about, and he had proved it many times. He was ye pressed often sides. He had proved it many times. Full loath were him to curson for his tithes. He was very particular about paying the tithes. What are tithes? 1/10 of the annual produce or earnings, formally taken as a tax for the support of the clergy or church. So whatever one earns income or has possessions, 1/10 of that is given to the church. For the development, for everything, for support. So he was very particular about paying the tithes. Full loath were him to curson for his tithes, and he would become angry if somebody would not do that, pay their tithes on time. He would excommunicate for non-payment of tithes. But rather would he was strict in those terms, but rather would he given out of doubt unto his poor parishioners about. He was so kind and gentle also, that if there was a poor parishioner with him, he would even give from his own pocket to that poor person of his offering, and eke his substance of whatever he earned. He would give to that poor person. He knew in little thing have sufficiency. He knew how to live with little things. He knew how to be satisfied with little things. Wide was his parish, and houses far asunder, but he ne left nat for rain ne thunder, in sickness nor in mischief, to visit the farthest in his parishes much, and light upon his feet, and in his hand a staff. Now, the surrounding that they lived in is talked about. Wide was his parish, and houses far asunder. So there lived the parishioners who lived there. The houses were far, far away. But chahe rain ho, chahe thunder ho, he would not skip visiting his parishioners, whether in rain or in thunder, in sickness or in any kind of trouble. He would go the farthest in his parishes, much and little, whether they are of high rank or of low rank. Farthest wale ke paas bhi he would go, upon his feet, and in his hand a staff. A staff is a symbol of a power in the clergy, in the church. He would have that, and he would walk to the farthest of the parishioners also. This noble ensample to his sheep he gave, that first he wrought and afterwards he taught. So this kind of an example he set for his parishioners, for his sheep, for his parishioners, that first he worked himself very hard, and after that he taught others to do the same. Out of the gospel he the words got, and this figure he added thereto, that if gold rust, what shall iron do? Very famous quote. So when he would teach his parishioners, he would take this example out from the gospel, and he would say that if gold rust, what shall iron do? Gold here has been symbolized, has been used as a symbol for the church people, the people who say are connected with God in some way. So if gold rust, if these people would become corrupt, what shall the iron do? What will the other people, common people do? If we are to set an example, we have to be very good with it. So if gold rust, what shall iron do? For if a priest be foul, on whom we trust, no wonder is a lewd man to rust. If a priest will be foul, if a priest will be corrupt, then who will we trust upon? Then no wonder a common man will rust, no matter what we do. If a common man will look up to us and will do bad things eventually. And shame it is if a priest keep a shitten shepherd and a clean sheep. And it would be a shame if something like this happens, that a priest is stained with some kind of bad things, a shit-stained shepherd and a clean sheep, और उसके जो लोग हैं उसके अंदर वो clean हो. Well ought a priest ensample to give by his cleanness how that his sheep should live. So a priest has to set an example how with purity their people have to live. He set not his benefice to hire, and let his sheep encumbered in the mire. He never let what is benefice? Benefice is a permanent church appointment, typically that of a rector or a vicar, for which property and income are provided in respect of pastoral duties. But he would not give it up for money. He set not his benefice to hire, and let his sheep encumbered in the mire. And he would not let his people, mire is some kind of an unpleasant situation. He would not let his people be put in such kind of an unpleasant situation, any kind of an unpleasant situation. And he did not do so many things. Now there's a list of things that he would not do. And ran to London unto St. Paul's to seek in him a chauntry for souls. He would not run to London into St. Paul's to become a chauntry priest. What is a chauntry priest? It was said in England, these priests would be paid in so many terms, like property, rent, and they would pray for a soul, a particular soul. So it was a duty which was well paid. He would not run to London to do that, or with a brotherhood to be in withhold, but dwell at home and kept well his fold. Instead, he would stay at home and he would keep his people together. He would take care of them, take well care of them, so that the wolf made it not miscarry, so that nobody would do any kind of a mischief or miscarry something, misconduct. He was a shepherd and not a mercenary. So he was the shepherd of his sheep, and he was not a mercenary, somebody who was doing anything for money. And though he holy were and virtuous, he was to sinful man not dispiteous. So he was a holy man and a very virtuous kind of a person. But if there was somebody who was sinful, would do something which is sinful, it was not that he would become scornful of that person. He would not start hating that person. Nay of his speech, dangerous, nay dine. He was not even bad with his speech. He did not give out any haughty kind of statements. But in his teaching, discreet and benign. Instead, he would teach that person, and he was very gentle and he was very good with his teaching, his speech, discreet and benign. To draw on folk to heaven by fairness, by good ensemble, this was his business. How to teach people or to draw folks to heaven by fairness, how you have to reach that good place. He would teach them with good example, and that was his business. But it were any person obstinate, but if अब बीच में आ ही जाते हैं ना ऐसे लोग भी जो बहुत हटी होते हैं, if there was any kind of a person like that, obstinate, whatso he were of high or low estate, whether of high rank or a low rank, him would he snip in sharply for the nonce. A better priest I trow that nowhere known, yes. So he would, if there was an obstinate person, he would sharply rebuke that person at that point of time. And then Chaucer says, as he says for everybody, I have not seen a better priest in the town anywhere. He waited after no pomp and reverence, nay maked him a spiced conscience. So he was not into pomp and show, celebration, mujhe celebrate kiya jaye. He was not into that. He waited after no pomp and reverence, nay marked him a spiced conscience. Neither was his conscience very spiced up. But Christ's lure and Apostle 12, he taught, but first he followed it himself. So he was a very simple man. He would teach what the Christ's teachings and the 12 apostles' teachings. But before teaching, he would practice that himself. So he wouldn't do like that he would teach something and preach something else. He would teach and preach the same things. Next is Plowman. With him there was a plowman, was his brother. So Parson ka brother was Plowman. That had he lad of dung full many a fodder. He had full dung, cartload of dung with him. Now he was a plowman, so a true sinker and a good he was he. Now he was a very hard-working person. A true, hard-working and a good person, living in peace and perfect charity. And he was living in a very peacefully and with full love, charity. God loveth he best with all his whole heart, at all times, though him gamed or smarred. He loved God with all his heart, whether it was good time or low time for him, bad times for him. He would not give up loving God. And then his neighbor right as himself, and he would also love his neighbor just like himself. He would thresh and thereto dike and delve for Christ's sake for every poor wight, without an hire if it lay in his mind. He was such a good fellow that he was a plowman, he would dig and everything, he would do everything for Christ's sake. If there was a poor person that he had to work for, he would not even take money if it allowed him, if it was in his hands. He would not even charge. He would just do it for Christ's sake. Thresh and dig and everything. His tithes paid he full, fair and well. He paid his tithes fully, fairly and well. Both of his proper sink and his kettle. Whatever he worked, he would pay his tithes for what he earned and for the possessions that he had. 1/10 of everything he would pay very properly. In a tabard he rode in upon a mare. Tabard, it's a kind of a jacket. He rode in that upon a mare, upon his horse. That was the plowman. The next three lines of the General Prologue says, there was a reeve and a miller, a summoner and a pardoner also, a municipal and myself. There were no more. That means we have these characters left. A reeve, a miller, a summoner, a pardoner, a municipal and himself. 6. And there were no more. That's what he says now. Next that he describes is the miller. The miller was a stout carl for the nonce, full big he was of brown and eke of bones. Now the miller, he starts describing, there's a song disturbance going on in the background, some wedding I guess, I don't know if you can hear it, anyway. So he starts talking about the miller and he says that he was a stout fellow, big body, full big he was of brown and eke of bones, of brawn. He had a big body of strong bones, muscular kind of a person that proved well for overall where he came. Wherever he would come, ऐसा होता ना, if you see a muscular kind of a person, his appearance would be very significant. So he proved that very well wherever he came. At wrestling, he would have always the ram. He would always win in all wrestling competitions and everything. He was short shoulder, broad and a thick nair. He was, again, the physical attire, physical attributes are being told. Short shoulder, broad and a thick nair. There was no door that he knolled have of hair. There was no door that he would, pick from the hinge. He would just, आपने वो दया का कैरेक्टर देखा है CID में, or break it at a running with his head. There was no door that he couldn't break. Either ऐसे उठा के बस उखाड़ देता था या फिर दौड़ के उस पे सिर मार के तोड़ देता था. So there was no door that he would heave of hair or break it at a running with his head. His beard, as any sow or fox, was red. His beard was of red color, like a sow or a fox. Sow is a pig, and thereto broad as though it were a spade, and it was broad also like a spade. Upon the upright of his nose he had a wart, and thereon stood a tuft of hair. So if you look at his nose, on the top right, at the top of his nose, he had a wart, a kind of a mole, and from that mole there were hair coming out. This reminds me of the movie Tare Zameen Par. In that there's a painting competition wala scene, and they draw a cartoon sketch kind of a thing for the teachers, and there's this one teacher for whom they draw a similar kind of a wart, and they also draw those hair coming out of the wart. So there, similarly here also, the miller had a wart and there were hair coming out of it, red as the bristles of a sow ears. They were also red like sow is, I told you, a pig. उसके कान से जो ऐसे bristles निकलते हैं वैसे थे. His nostrils, Chaucer here has gone totally, I mean, what should I say? His nostrils black were and wide. He's talking about his nostrils also, black and wide. Badi badi thi. A sword and a buckler bar he by his side. So he had this he had a sword and a buckler by his side. His mouth was as a great furnace. So even his mouth was very large, like a great furnace. He was a jangler or a Goliardes. So he was, he would make those bad jokes. Goliard, like a clown, and he was a loud mouth. Wherever he would speak anything. Those people who would speak anything and make stupid jokes like that. And that was most of sin and harlotries, and the jokes and things that he would talk about were mostly sinful and harlotries, about women, bad jokes. I don't want to go into detail. Well kneweth he still in corn and tolen thrice. He knew how to steal corn and then charge for it 3 times. He was a miller. And yet he had a thumb of gold. He also had a thumb of gold. A white coat and a blue hood weared he. So he wore a white coat and a blue hood upon that. A bagpipe well knew he blew and sown. He knew how to play and blow a bagpipe. Have you seen a bagpipe? And therewithal he brought us out of town. And with that, the bagpipes that he played, with that he brought us out of town. So that's about the miller. So we have done these three characters: Parson, Plowman and the miller. I will see you in the next session with the next three characters. See you. Have a good reading, and I hope that you are understanding all of this and enjoying it. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to the channel, share it with as many people as you can. Thank you. See you. Happy learning. Bye bye.